Looking at the receivers this week, some good options, even if you are, or especially if you're in need of a guy this week, and also some options that I think you can probably rely on for the remainder of the season. So we've had this kind of consistent trend, and this seems how it really goes most of the time in fantasy football. Running backs can be kind of dime a dozen. You get guys that you can only start for 1 week, whereas receivers tend to have a little bit more long-term value when they become available on the waiver wire, regardless of why that is. There's more of them. There's more opportunities for receivers to sustain value. We can see quarterbacks kind of change their preferences over time. Injuries obviously affect things as well. So lots of receiver options. If you're in need of receiver help, this is a good week for you. Going to be time to go shopping on the waivers this week. So first and foremost, not going to talk about him much because we've already talked about him for 2 weeks straight, but Travis Fulgham, if he's out there, needs to be rostered. He looks like he's going to continue to be the wide receiver one on this team. We'll see, though, what happens when Jalen Reagor comes back, which looks like could be this week. He was activated off of IR yesterday and is not a guarantee to play this week. But if he does, playing against that Cowboys defense, I think is definitely worth a start. And we do believe in the talent of Jalen Reagor over a guy like Travis Fulgham, first-round draft capital. Obviously dealt with a few injuries up to this point, but he was killing it in camp, getting comps to guys like Julio Jones. And that may have been a little bit saucy in terms of the comparison there, but I do think that Jalen Reagor is who he is advertised to be. So even if you don't see him this week, meaning they'll wait and just let him heal up an extra week through the bye week in week 9, I think by week 10, Jalen Reagor could actually come out and be the wide receiver one on this team. And Carson Wentz has actually been heating up over the past couple weeks. He's been the number 2 quarterback in standard points scored for quarterbacks. So Carson Wentz has been doing better. This team is going to get healthier as the season goes on. Hopefully they don't sustain any more injuries, and it can't really get much worse than it is right now for them. So as the Eagles continue to get better, they're in the leadership position to, ride out and finish in the first in the NFC East. I like Jalen Reagor a lot, and I think you can probably steal him for a bit cheaper than you will have to if you wait for him to break out. Sterling Shepard had himself a really nice week coming back from that turf toe injury. 6 of 8 for 59 yards and a touchdown. I think he's going to be the wide receiver one there in New York. We kind of felt that way before the season started. He's kind of been Daniel Jones' favorite target pretty much whenever he's out there. He does get hurt a lot, so if you want to call the guy injury prone, this is one of those situations where I understand why you would want to do that. But at this point, get a free guy off of the waiver wire, someone that can actually help you immediately. And as long as he stays healthy, I think he remains a flex option for the rest of the year. I love Sterling Shepard. He's probably my favorite guy to go after this week of the people that are likely out there on the waiver wire. Corey Davis saw himself another day with 10 targets, which only was able to come down with 6 of them for 35 yards, but he did get a touchdown on the day. Still seeing a lot of those red zone looks from Ryan Tannehill. This is a really good team. A really good offense with a bit of a suspect defense. They're going to have to continue putting up points in the way that they have been. So I think Corey Davis will remain his value as a flex option going forward. And then Rashard Higgins basically came in and took over that Odell Beckham role after Odell went down with that ACL injury in the first quarter. Rashard Higgins went out and caught all 6 of his targets for 110 yards. No touchdowns on the day, but definitely like that usage there. Has the rapport with Baker Mayfield. They developed it for a while, so it's probably not going to be much more than a low-end flex option, but I do think Rashard Higgins should be rostered. Given the situation, depending on where you are in your league, should definitely be a startable asset for some of you out there. Deeper options, guys, that not necessarily a great start this week, but depending on how deep your league is, how many bench slots you have, how many players you actually need to start each week, you might end up needing them. Preston Williams, probably out there on waivers. I know a lot of people dumped him through the bye. Last time we saw him, he only had 3 targets, 2 catches, and 18 yards, but did get a touchdown. But we don't know at this point who Tua is going to favor between Parker, Williams, Gesicki, some of the other options there. And, we're expecting Devontae Parker to be the lead guy there, but anytime we have a quarterback change, it kind of mixes up everything for the skill position guys there. So if Preston Williams is out there and you can stash him on your bench for free, I might want to see what Tua looks like over the next couple weeks. And this might be the cheapest time you can get Preston Williams if he ends up being Tua's favorite guy. Marquez Callaway, I would have him higher here if it wasn't for the fact that he was also suffering a mild ankle sprain. I don't know that it's going to keep him out in week 8. If he is out in week 8, then I'm probably not going to be putting him on my bench. He did have 10 targets on Sunday versus the Panthers, 8 catches for 75 yards, basically took over that Emmanuel Sanders role. Michael Thomas likely to miss another week here in week 8, and we don't know how long it will be until we see Emmanuel Sanders again after being added to the COVID IR list. So if Marquez Callaway is active, I think you can play him this week pretty easily in PPR leagues. Denzel Mims, guy we touted last week, this might be the last week that you can actually go out and get him. You might have one more week because they are playing the Chiefs, and I think they're going to get routed a bit. But Denzel Mims leading the team in targets. He went 4 of 7 for 42 yards. Looked pretty decent out there coming off of a dual hamstring injury. And with Jamison Crowder banged up, Rashad Paraman looks like he's going to be out for a while. This is going to be the number one option for Sam Darnold and the Jets there. So it's not the greatest play because it is the Jets. But I do think Denzel Mims is going to see enough targets to warrant a flex start going forward. And he has the athleticism to eventually break out. So hopefully we'll see that at some point this year. Might be hard on this Jets team, but hey, they're going to be playing from behind a lot. So we've seen Jamison Crowder have some wide receiver 1 weeks. Why can't Denzel Mims do the same? And then we had him on here last week, but through the bye, you probably didn't want to roster him. Marcus Johnson, last time we saw him, had a pretty decent day for Indianapolis. We see the Colts, still dealing with a bunch of injuries to their receivers. Marcus Johnson could end up emerging here as the number 1 option for Phillip Rivers. Really only an option in very deep leagues, but someone I would be keeping an eye on if you have a spot and you don't have any of these other guys on the waiver wire. He'd be my last option here. But if you just want to add someone, you're like, I just want to see what we got, I think Marcus Johnson is definitely worth that stash.